What's up, tubers? Welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of my 4-part series of how I make models. This step is the prep step. The test. The key here is fitment and form. Your prep should always be better than your finished paint job. That's what I learned a long time ago. So we're gonna go through these and snip everything off the bits, or the bits off the trees or whatever. Get your cutters and your sander. Depending on what I've got here, these are like the nicer, higher end stuff for really sharp details, and these are the main cutters. Then I've got some thrashers for other stuff. So you want your cutters nearby, and I'm going to go through everything here and separate it from the tree, separate it into different piles, according to the puzzle bits. We've got the body, interior, chassis, and motor. Essentially, that's how it breaks down. One of the first things I noticed that I mentioned in the other videos that I'll put these in its bag, keep them from getting scratched while I'm working on stuff, and those will go, off to the side. Hey, stop that. As well as the decals and the manual. I may use that at some point. Who knows? But I'll get that out of my way, get that out of the workspace. Body will be the last thing that I'll prep. The other parts of the bits, I have found that, again, I say puzzle. Once you've figured out that puzzle part and a workflow starts to happen, you'll find that having them separated into different parts or whatever isn't a big deal. It seems like it's intimidating at first to get it all cut. It's just a big mountain. Again, keeping it into the separate columns helps a lot, helps immensely. But while I'm doing that, sorting and solidifying the direction of where I want to go, do I want to use these nice craggers? Do I want to use that triple high-rise, or these? They never quite look right. I've tried a couple times to use them. The trumpets, they usually wind up being all crooked and wonky, and you probably won't use those. And so going through and deciding which stuff I'm going to use or not, I don't know. I think I'll use the customs on this one. I've built this up as stock, and I want to use these nice deep dish spokes. Which valve cover, I don't know. We'll try to not touch them or rub them too much, because it will rub off and smear if you're going for the show car clean look. Like those would actually look better with a little panel line on them. So, I don't know. We'll see. The chromes will usually sit off to the side with the clears and all that stuff for now. I'll start usually with a sharp knife. I think this one was relatively sharp. And I'll go through and, rough hew, sand any edges, anything obvious, parts that won't be visible, but will make assembly and test fitting that much easier. Is that visible? I think it is. So already I can see that little sinkhole is visible on my rear, what do they call that, a package shelf. And to prep that clean, it's going to leave a mark. You're going to have a bad day.
What is skiing about? Having a good time. That's right. Now, just a few safety things to keep in mind. First of all, look straight ahead when you ski. If you look down, you're going to fall. You're going to have a bad time. Also, be aware of skiers around you. If you run into another skier, your skis are going to cross, going to have a bad time.
So where's the part where we have a good time?
So I'll do my best to be clean about it, but what will probably be happening is this will get, I just made the decision right there, this will get flocking over it, or at the very least I'm going to rough it up so that it's uniform. So that if I paint that a different color, it's gonna look different than the rest, contrasting. But you know, kind of flowing through it like a machine, tossing the bits, double checking, making sure there wasn't anything on there. And the more prep you can do now, as you're working, you know, same as like working in the kitchen or in the shop or anything else, clean as you go, you know, clean up after yourself, as well as doing this initial prep stuff first. Not a whole lot of detail in that engine bay, you know. I'm probably gonna want to add something to that, like I have been recently able to start adding my own bits. But as you're going, you can see like this little piece here will easily just cut off, but it might not be flat and square enough to sit properly on the body later when you go to make the fitment, the final adjustment, and your ride height will be all wonky. So I'll go through and rough clean all these edges, set aside, and move on. Repeat the process through all of this stuff. Where you cut, like this one, you can see that's, you know, great designing.
A great success.
It's right on the top of the dashboard. That seriously couldn't be in a worse spot. It is smack dab in the middle of where the dashboard is. So cut it fat, meaning leave some excess. Not a whole lot, you know, you're only creating work for yourself, but you don't want to go too far this way and make a hole or a divot. So cut it fat and then fine tune it, which always cut towards yourself in a herky-jerky motion. Don't do what I do. I'm an idiot. And that's, you know, that'll pass for now. I'll probably wind up giving that a little bit more detailed attention later. But right now, I'm just trying to get everything cut off the trees into piles. Like that will go in there. That's where that goes. It's part of that process. Same with this. This is part of that puzzle. A lot of people will say, no, don't do them like that. Don't take stuff off. You know, snapped it right off the tree like that. Well, the thing is that's the bottom of the seat. You're never going to see that in the model. Never going to see it. It's still not going to start and run anyways. So, you know, again, you see me kind of using the rough edge of the, doesn't really matter too much. Kind of just deburring it, taking the parts off of the trees and then fine tuning the flash and stuff that if you can see it with your eye, if it bothers you, then that's probably the time to address it. Saw that from I think it was the Model Muse, I believe so. He's talking about details. You know, you just work the process until it doesn't bother your eye anymore, and it's done. Any more interior bits in there for now? I don't notice any. So we'll get this out of the way so we don't beat it up too badly. Looking at this one has hood hinges like that I will cut those off later. But for now, let's get it off the tree. Again, cutting a little bit fat. Leave the line, as they would say in buildings. And then trim it. This part, leave it a little bit fat. You're better off with the trimming going flat. Take your flat surface and sand flat. You know, don't go like this and like that. You put divots in it and then kind of fine tune that edge a little bit. Again, I'll go through and fine tune all of this stuff later. But, you know, obviously, like I said, you want to do as much prep to it as you can initially. Anything that you see that bugs you. I think this, I seem to remember when I built this one before, I sanded that off and I was supposed to have left it. I think that's a chrome strip. Yeah, I believe it is. I'm going to leave that alone. And we'll set it in there for now so it doesn't get too dinged up and all this beating up. And I will put it in its own pile with body panels like these. And that, since this is a lower valence, I'll use my cutters, wow, words, to cut the line, take the line there. So there's really no cleanup at all, you know, just snip, flat, plain, sand it, planer. You can see a little bit of flash around the edges, but that'll all get cleaned up and addressed later when it comes time for fitment, which is in this step. It's all, you know, fitment is the key. Form, it's all about getting it to fit and test fitting it. So, already see there's an exhaust. We'll take that with, is it a single? No, double right there. Just in the interest of keeping stuff together. Yeah, there it is. I was looking for the seat back. I knew there was one. Flush kit, flush word. Wow, I'm just fumbling for words here. It's because I'm not used to talking and doing things with my hands at the same time. I don't know. So I'm just going to rip through these. I'll hold the clippers in one hand and pull it off the tree with the other. These, actually, not a whole lot of detail to them. Those are the spindles, steering spindles. They're the same parts. Sometimes, you know, it would behoove you to look at the instruction manual and see if there's any difference in the right side or the left side. Most of the times there isn't. You know, like this, the exhaust, it's pretty obvious. One will go on that side and the other one will go on the other. But, you know, you never know. There might be two parts that actually are designed for right or left. So I know that those aren't, so I'm just going to take them off. And this 3-walled battery, smoke and mirrors, baby, smoke and mirrors. That's a thing that started me to want to print. I saw that other people had them. I'm like, oh wait, I can have an Optima? I can make them? Cool. Always going through the whole tree to make sure there's not some little tiny teeny bit like this was attached in some weird spot. And you throw that away, you're like, wait, where's that hose that 9 times out of 10 I'll never attach to the vehicle? I generally don't. See, that came off all right. You know, it's all in the how your build is going to go. If you're going to be like super clean about it, sometimes I will be really, really detailed with each one. But this one, again, I said, I'm just kind of doing a basic assembly. We're not going to do a whole lot of modifications to it. I looked through the instructions and saw that this rear roll pan attaches to the bumper. So I'll paint that separately, leave those blank, and then attach to the bumper and then attach to the car, as opposed to attaching it to the car pre-paint. Sometimes you kind of have to do that. You know, you don't have a choice. You have to attach a roll pan or a front or a back. And those can be kind of tricky sometimes. That one, this looks like it'll be fine. I said this part here attaches to the back of the bumper. Where is it? The rear. And then that part attaches to the car. Or I might have had that upside down, but whatever, you get the idea. So, going through, continuing with exhaust and chassis. Keeping it as a puzzle would be. I keep saying puzzle, like think of a crossword puzzle, or no, better yet, a jigsaw puzzle. where the tricks are, you start with a corner piece. You start putting the corners together and work around. That's similar to this. I've found the spots of how the stuff all goes together. Oh, that is so cool. I get distracted easily. Squirrel.
Ooh, shiny.
Oh, yeah. But, how it goes together, how the whole thing attaches. You start to learn shortcuts. And that just comes with time, with doing it over and over again. You can see how the whole puzzle and everything works. Like this. What is that? When do you put it on? Where do you do that? How's it different from that? Do you put the firewall on first under the car? You put the radiator support on first? Or, it seems maybe even a little confusing with the instructions at first, but it's not. It's really pretty simple. Oh, right here I can see another good example. If you do get lost or confused easily, keep track of it. Right here I can see these spindles. That this will determine your ride height. Like that attaches to the car, and the wheel attaches to that. So clearly I can see I've got, here, let me just take one off. Or both of them. Oh no, they're all mixed up. Not really. I mean, you can clearly see they're different. One's higher than the other. You don't have to worry about right side or left side. Just, one of them is going to make it lower. The other one's going to be standard. Cool. Making a little mental note of that as you're going along. And those over time will start to stick, and it just becomes second nature. I can see I'm not even using my cutters. I'm just taking the stuff off, knowing that the amount of prep that's going to go into these, and then the paint and how visible they are, by the time they're actually on the model, you're not even really going to see most of it anyways. So I really don't spend a whole lot of time on some stuff. You just don't need to. I might not even use that. That's just going to go in the extra box. Same with these headers, stock exhaust manifolds. Those will probably go in the parts bin with everything else. Yep, clear. But I'll keep most of the motor stuff together and suspension stuff. These shocks, they won't need a lot of cleanup. And then the last bit is our single belt. No, that's a 2-belt system. Oil pan. What is that? I don't know what that is. We'll take it off and set it to the side, make a note of what it is, where it might go. Starter. Timing chain cover, water pump, coil, and distributor, and the motor house. Okay. And that, definitely interior. And this will be interior, and that's okay. Motor.
Marsha.
Suspension. I need to see what that is later. There you go. So that's the essential part. I will leave that attached to the last possible minute. Side note, if you're building one of these, do not cut that out. Those need to stay there.
You're gonna have a bad time.
Or your hood's just gonna flop around. It won't. It's kind of a stupid design. But these I will leave till the absolute last possible minute and cut them off, and then you know, touch up that bottom area if it's even needed. Because it's just going to become a floppy mess when you're trying to sand it and work on it and prep the body. Those guys I'll cut out. I'll take those out. I mean, yeah, might as well just do that now while we're in this phase. This is the initial prep phase, and I'm going to get everything like I have here into piles, and then scoop it all up, and I have to focus on a different project, and then we'll come back to this. But that doesn't make any sense to you because it's going to get edited all together. I should tell my future self to not do stuff like that. That's kind of looking closer at what's on here, what I will use, what I won't use, like these. I know I'm going to use those headers. I hope. Oh, I don't know, man. They are really hard to attach. They really are. I've found a lot of times you're better off with these type to strip them down and attach them in the sub-assembly portion and then paint them out later, which that will probably be the way I go. I won't use the trumpets, or will I use the Kragers? Not sure what that is. I probably will use that if the deck height allows it to sit under the hood without it open or without it closed, without cutting a hole in it. And that's a whole other whole thing to talk about.
It's an entirely different kind of flying altogether.
It's an entirely different kind of flying.
Don't be intimidated. That was one of the first cuts that I ever made in a model. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Now I'm like, read. It's just plastic, man. It's just plastic. Oh yeah, and this little bit. Why is that in a separate bag? Huh. Well, we'll look closer at the instructions to find out why. But it's just... that's kind of interesting. Why would you put a stock wheel? Because it only came with the chain wheel? I don't know. Whatever. I'll still prep it out. If I use it or not, we'll see. And that looks like a track bar, a panhard bar. Okay, whatever. Goes over there with suspension. Same with this. And these little tiny bits. Man, I hate this stuff. That it's never gonna be straight. Not only is it never gonna be straight, but you fight so hard trying to get those edges to look round and cylindrical for something that if this is a panhard bar, you're really not gonna see it. But in the interest of doing the complete build, nonsense. I'm doing the build the way I want, the way I do. That's the whole premise of this. So I'm digressing. My neighbor had walked by and was yelling and screaming. It seems like a domestic situation to me that I don't care about. Unless she'd do it somewhere else instead of right in front of my window. Good looking parts here. I will use... I don't know if I'll use those triples. Use a single carburetor. Definitely use the exhaust tips. I kind of like those valve covers. I prefer those. Huge chrome air cleaner. Not a fan of the chrome fan. Not a fan of chrome fans. But I'll probably use it. So most of this stuff will stay on the tree until I get to like running panel line and doing any other sort of trim bits. So that can go off to the side, and then cutters can go away for now, and then we start in on the not final prep, but second stage. Let me figure out what that is. I think seem to recall. Well, if memory serves, Captain, I don't remember. Yeah, and the clear stuff. There's your Impala cat eyes. Man, I love that car so much. Had one of these. And then there's the custom one. Yeah, I want to use that. But I'm still going to prep out the other stock bumpers just to look at them. Just because they're cool. And I'll probably use those decals too. They make it semi-low ride or semi-hot rod. That's sort of the vision that I have for it. What is that part and where does it go? Ah, there we go. See it right now. It's a mount for the alternator mount, whatever. Oh, idler pulley bracket mount. Yeah, whatever. It's a tiny bit that's going to get glued in sub-assembly. So, and every once in a while you do need to break out the instruction sheet. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. It's all part of the deal. You know, I said a 4-part, but I think I'm going to call it and work on the next stage of prep in a whole different video. Or, you know what? No. I have these in piles. What we're going to do now is I'll do I don't know what I'm going to do. It's time to take a break.
12 seconds later.
And I came back real quick to add, that's a good time to do that. You get to a point that you're like, oh man, I'm kind of burned out or tired, or not burned out, but you know, if you actually say out loud, it's time to take a break, it's definitely time to take a break. And that's, I'm going to leave it like this and we'll come back to it. The next part that I'll get into, I'll usually leave these out on my desk so that I can see what I'm thinking. A little bit of sanding, a little bit of trim, and everything will get ready for sub-assembly and primer. So, for now, I'm going to take a break and stop, and the next portion of this segmented, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Definitely stopping.